My name's Greg Knapp. This is the Greg Knapp Experience, your 20 to 30 minute thrill ride for your commute or your workout. The FDA has ended emergency use of 2 treatments for COVID, and Florida Governor DeSantis is fuming. Give you the details. Fox News Channel footage shows a mass release of single adult male illegal aliens. You know, putting them into taxi cabs, letting them drive around America. I mean, what could go wrong? Beijing Olympics has issued their COVID-19 restrictions for athletes, and then they gave them free condoms. What? Yeah, okay. The Black Lives Matter chapter for DC says cops killed in the line of duty are not necessarily heroes. What? It's all coming up this edition of the Greg Knapp Experience. Let's go. All right, so we'll start with what's going on in Florida. The Florida Department of Health announced it is closing all of its monoclonal antibody treatment sites because the U.S. FDA has rescinded the emergency use authorizations for 2 treatments of COVID-19, 2 different monoclonal antibody treatments. Now, there's all these big names that I'm not going to get into because it's just going to be confusing. One of them is Regeneron, but the FDA says data show these treatments are highly unlikely to be active against the Omicron variant. Oh, you know what else is not so active against the Omicron variant? The vax. Well, but it still reduces serious illness and hospitalization. That's what they found in these other studies. True. That is what they found in those studies. And I hope that's true. But it's also true that vaccinated people are getting Omicron way more than they did for Delta, and yet we're still doing that. So if some people are still being helped by these monoclonal antibody treatments, why would you just totally end them and make it illegal to use them is what the FDA is basically doing. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. They're saying, well, there are side effects with these. Oh, yeah, you know what else has side effects? The vaccine. But if you talk about those, you're a conspiracy theorist. You talk about the side effect of a monoclonal antibody treatment, well, that's the reason we had to say that it's no longer good for emergency use. Oh, in the future, if patients in certain geographic regions are likely to be infected or exposed to a variant that is susceptible to these treatments, then use of these treatments may be authorized in these regions, says the FDA. Isn't that nice of them? Guess what? By then it'll be too late. Florida Deputy Secretary of Health, Kenneth Shepke, went on the record and said, Florida disagrees with the decision, particularly regarding Regeneron, noting it has not been supported by any clinical evidence provided by the FDA that it does not work. So the FDA is claiming they have data that says these 2 treatments don't work, and the Florida Deputy Secretary of Health says, where's the evidence? So here we go again. Who do you believe? In a letter to leadership at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Florida Deputy Secretary for Health noted Florida has ordered more than 30,000 doses of Regeneron and the sotoromivab monoclonal antibody treatment. Yeah, that's hard for me to say. That, by the way, remains permitted, but HHS has not been responding to their request. See, this just came out as an edict like that. There was no call up the governors, let them know what's happening. We're going to do this in a few days. Nope, it was just done. While we were hopeful to immediately connect on this timely and important issue, unfortunately, you, HHS, were no longer able to accommodate our request for a call today and canceled. We believe the decision to delay our meeting was made with the awareness this would be announced. Rather than transparent communication from the federal government to states, decisions continue to be made through news cycles, and this actively prevents states from making operational decisions that actively save lives. Governor Ron DeSantis, oh man, he let loose. Listen to this. Without a shred of clinical data to support this action, he's talking about the Regeneron, Biden has forced trained medical professionals to choose between treating their patients or breaking the law. Think about that for a second. If your doctor says, yeah, I think this could really help you, it's helped a lot of other people, give it a try. One of my friends, she and her husband both just got COVID. She went and got the monoclonal antibody treatment. She said it was like night and day. It was like so much better as soon as she got those. Now, her husband got it, and it didn't do much for him. Well, guess what? It didn't hurt him. At least it was a try, and it helped her. So shouldn't the doctor and the patient have something to say about that? No. We've decided at the FDA. We've decided. Well, guess what? Not everybody has Omicron. There are still people getting Delta. Well, we believe that the new cases are approximately 99% Omicron. So therefore, we're going to end this. It's insane. So DeSantis goes on. This indefensible edict takes treatment out of the hands of medical professionals and will cost some Americans their lives. There are real-world implications to Biden's medical authoritarianism. Americans' access to treatments is now subject to the whims of a failing president. Of course, HHS, their spokesperson, pushed back. DeSantis is more interested in promoting medicines that don't work than urging people to take vaccines that do. He's been telling people to take vaccines since day one, and he still does say that in Florida. In fact, we have one of the oldest populations, if not the oldest population in the nation in Florida, and yet about 16th in deaths per capita, and that's highly due to the fact that we got all the old people vaccinated. According to the spokesperson for Governor DeSantis, Christina Pushaw, why doesn't the HHS spokesperson understand the majority of patients seeking monoclonal antibody treatment, like the majority of Floridians, are vaccinated? Yeah, you might want to remember that one. By the way, spokesperson for Florida Department of Health tweeted out, on a scheduled call, HHS recognized that an oral treatment from Merck was not effective against the coronavirus. HHS says, no, we didn't say that. So again, who do you believe? And then over at Tyler Durden's reporting about how Jen Psaki responded when asked about this situation. Reporter, Florida continues to push for monoclonal antibody treatment. What's your response to Governor DeSantis? What the FDA is making clear is these treatments, the one that they're fighting over, that the governor's fighting over, do not work against Omicron, and they have side effects. Well, that's not what the governor's office has shown. The FDA is not showing any evidence that Regeneron does not work for Omicron. Psaki said, let's just take a step back here and realize how crazy this is. We know what works, vaccines and boosters. We've approached COVID treatments like filling a medicine cabinet. We're not relying on one type, one brand, or one treatment. Well, then why are you getting rid of these? The MAB treatments have worked incredibly well for Delta. Yes, it's true, they are less effective against Omicron, but we still have people getting Delta, and it does help some with Omicron. It's not as effective, but the vax isn't as effective against Omicron, and we're still using that. So why should federal government agencies be able to stop doctors and patients from choosing this without data showing that it's absolutely the wrong thing to do? By the way, down in Miami-Dade, the Regeneron clients, the latest information, January 24th, 2022, at a 5-to-1 ratio, the people are vaccinated who are getting the monoclonal antibody treatments. 5-to-1. Vaccinated, not unvaccinated. And yet somehow we're being, well, the way to fix this is vaccination. These people have vaccinations. It's really, really frustrating. And I know it is for Governor DeSantis, and I know it is for the people who are sick. Hey, just a second, I want to tell you about Fairfax, Virginia schools. What they're doing to kids who are showing up without masks is amazing. But I'm asking you, if you like the show and you want to push back on the left's version of America, that it's somehow this awful, evil, racistly systemic nation, and rally around the idea that America is exceptional and it's the ideas of America that make it exceptional, then I hope you will join me by telling 3 friends to tell 3 friends to listen to the show. Be part of the movement, and I appreciate you greatly to do that. Like the Greg Knapp Experience Facebook page, listen to the Greg Knapp Experience podcast, and I'm on Twitter and Parler and Gab and the videos on Rumble and YouTube. Thanks so much for being a part. Tell 3 friends to tell 3 friends about the Greg Knapp Experience. Fairfax, Virginia. You know, there's been all kinds of problems in Fairfax, Virginia. Well, the new governor, Glenn Youngkin, came out and said, no, schools cannot mandate masks on the kids anymore. This is ridiculous. Healthy children have an extremely low risk of dying from COVID. Your child has a better risk of dying riding in your car on the way to school than he does, in a car wreck, than he does from actually getting COVID and dying. Cloth masks, we've learned, do almost nothing. The N95 masks are the best ones, and even they are, susceptible to how you use them. We know that kids fiddle with their mask all day long. We know that it is extremely detrimental to their mood, to their social development, and their learning. There is no reason to have these kids keep wearing the mask. They've already stopped it in Europe, and yet they're still pushing it because they are holding on to this as like it's part of who they are. It's part of their identity. It's part of their tribe. If you wear the mask, you're one of us. If you don't, you're one of them. And it's ridiculous how we've done this in America. So the governor said no. Well, Fairfax County Public Schools trying to defy the new governor. Luke Rosiak has written this piece. He was there yesterday. It's amazing. An assistant principal stood in front of the school to suspend students who didn't have masks on. Public relations staffer was there to, make sure everything went well. Got mad at the media and said they were not allowed to watch the conflict between state and local governments unless they were 50 yards away in a different parking lot. A large security guard was there to enforce this and inadvertently illustrated some of the parents' concerns because when he was getting into it, somebody took his mask off to, tell him what was going on because, quote, I can't speak with this thing. Yeah, neither can the kids. At another point, the security guard lashed out at a former school board member mistakenly because his own mask had caused his glasses to fog up and he couldn't see who he was talking to. This is just, it's all Keystone Cop stuff. Moving on to the Olympics of Beijing. Aren't you excited about that? Can't wait for it to start, man. I'm so conflicted. I don't know if I can watch very much of this. What's going on with China and the human rights violations and what they do to their own people and the Uyghurs and the camps that they have going, and we all just kind of, oh, well, we got to make money in China. And I'm so over it. The problem is it's hard to say I'm not going to support China, and you got to look at every little thing and you see how much stuff comes from China. Maybe we ought to start making some more stuff here. So this is what I wanted to get to in this. The Olympics of Beijing, they have issued their playbook on COVID-19 measures for games personnel and athletes to make sure, nobody gets COVID. So games personnel, athletes instructed to minimize physical interactions, minimize hugs and high fives and handshakes, maintain a social distance of at least 2 meters from fellow competitors, and then they give them free condoms when they go to the hotel room. If you have the condom on, you're probably going to do more than hugging. Yes, thank you, Captain Obvious. But see, COVID stops when you put the condom on. That's all you got to do. All Olympic-related units will provide appropriate quantities of condoms for free at the appropriate time to people who've checked in to stay inside the loop. They have a loop for the athletes and the games people. The appropriate number of condoms. I wonder what that is. Journalists who checked into a nearby hotel inside the loop found 5 individually wrapped condoms in each room, packed in different colored envelopes, decorated with an image of a Chinese lantern. Well, I mean, that was the journalist. They get 5. I don't know what an athlete would get. That's a little different than what they do. Fox News footage is showing a mass release of single adult illegal aliens into the United States, Bill Mulligan reporting. And what they found was federally contracted big old buses dropping off dozens of almost all single adult illegal aliens. There's a big black tarp up to cover it as they duck under there. Moments later, they come out and they get into waiting taxis. And sure enough, they're being taken to different spots all across America, to reunite with families. Oh, I thought this whole thing was about unaccompanied minors and that adults were supposed to be turned back at the border. We're supposed to have the Remain in Mexico policy back in place. We still have Title 42, which is about health protections that we can use to keep illegal aliens from coming into the United States of America. And yet, here we go. Fox has this footage. I don't know if you looked at it, but it's amazing stuff. Several of the migrants told Fox, illegal aliens. I know even Fox won't call them what they are. Greg, that's a horrible, awful term. No person is illegal. Illegal alien is a term from the federal government. It is not a pejorative. It is just describing exactly what has happened. This person is an alien, somebody who is not an American citizen, and they have come across our border illegally. That's why they're called an illegal alien. And words matter. And when you change it into a migrant, that person's just come in to visit. Several of the illegal aliens told Fox that they had crossed illegally that morning, paying about $2,000 per person to the smugglers. And they said they were flying to destinations, including Miami, Houston, and Atlanta. It's nice. Wonder if they'll be able to use their deportation papers to get on. Remember we had that story last week? Or their arrest warrants. Joshua Miller reporting that the Black Lives Matter chapter of Washington, D.C. has called for the public not to jump to conclusions and call cops killed in the line of duty heroes. I mean, you don't know what happened. It was a series of tweets late Sunday. Let's wait till we have all the information. Isn't that what y'all tell us? Okay, here's the big difference. Well, first of all, I do say let's wait for the information to come in when there's something like a murder and we don't have video proof of it and we don't see the entire thing and we don't know exactly what happened. Absolutely. And I'll do that for every occasion. However, here's the difference. Police go out every day to protect you and me, including you, Black Lives Matter, Washington, D.C. chapter. And so when we see them go and respond to a call and they are gunned down during that call, yes, they're heroes. They have the benefit of the doubt that they are heroes, and you're going to have to prove to me that they're not. Just like, by the way, anybody accused of murder, if there's not like video evidence of me watching them murder somebody, yeah, you got to prove to me that they're guilty because you're assumed innocent in the United States of America. Presumed innocent until proved guilty. But these, no, you got to prove to me that these guys are a hero. Yeah, thanks once again for showing that it's not really that you're upset at police officers who have done something wrong. You're assuming that they're all horrible people. Remember, ACAB is what the Black Lives Matter people say now. All cops are bastards. All. Nice. Black Lives Matter DC compared Sunday's shooting of the police officers to early fatal gunfire involving police, including incidents in 2021. This isn't to say these scenarios represent what happened tonight, but it does explain our skepticism, interest in details, and highlights the difference in how people talk and act when an officer is hurt versus when they hurt a black person. No one asked what the cop did wrong. Okay, that's just not true. Those are lies. Number one, people do ask, well, what happened? Let's see the details. Is there a body cam? Of course we ask that. Number two, you ask the same questions whether it's a black person shot by the police or a white person shot by police. There are more white people shot by police every year than black people. Yeah, but there's a lot more white people. That is absolutely true. However, multiple studies have shown that it's not your skin color that determines the percentage or the risk of you being shot by the police officer. If we're going to look at skin color, it's much more about how many interactions with police and violent interactions because of violent criminal calls that come in. That's what determines whether people get killed. And when you look at it that way, you would actually expect more black suspects to be shot, not fewer. So in other words, those studies actually show the police are doing a good job of not shooting people because of their skin color. And in fact, when they've run the simulations, where you have a cop go in, he's supposed to shoot the bad guy, but don't shoot him unless he has a gun and all that kind of stuff. Black police officers are more quickly shooting the black suspects than the white police officers are. Now, are there bad cops? Absolutely. Are there racist cops? Absolutely. But it's a very small percentage of the police department, and what you do is you prosecute those people to the fullest extent of the law. By the way, there are several incidents I can remember, one right off the top of my head, where the police officer, you could see how he shot the guy and then dropped his gun next to him to try to, another gun that he had, to try to make it look like the guy had tried to shoot him. And instantly when that video came out, I didn't hear anybody going, well, let's wait and see the whole thing. So no, you're just wrong. It all depends on what we know. So many different things and factors, including this. Then Black Lives Matter DC tweeted this out. Being black in DC is more dangerous than any job. It's another lie. Another lie. Absolutely not true. The odds of you, just because you're black, walking out your door and getting shot by the police, virtually zero. Just like the odds of you walking outside and you're white and the police just randomly shoot you is virtually zero. The biggest risk for you being black in DC and being murdered is by being murdered by another black person. Just like, by the way, the biggest risk of you white walking out in DC is being murdered by another white person. All the FBI data shows that most murders happen white on white, black on black. Most. Why? Because most murders, you actually know the other person. And most people tend to know more people of their own race. And, I'm sure there's a million reasons for that. Well, the group also included a link to the Stop MPD campaign, which calls for an end to police violence and terror while pushing back on counterclaims that not all cops are bad officers. See, you can't. What? They're claiming all cops are bad officers. Yes, I told you, all cops are bastards, according to them. The webpage also claims that DC is an occupied police state that was never intended to protect people of color. Man, oh man. I mean, if you believe that and you preach that and you teach that to people, how do you think anything is going to get better? And by the way, if you want more black police officers, why would you want to become a police officer in DC right now, number one, but especially if you're black and everybody who is black is telling you that all cops are bastards? Thankfully, it's not everybody who's black who's saying that. It's a specific far-left group that's saying that. Wall Street Journal reporting, more on the cops. A second New York police officer died of his wounds Tuesday after being ambushed last Friday night, responding to a call about a domestic dispute. It was Wilbert Moore. He was only 27. He was shot in the head. The assailant had kicked open the door of a bedroom and opened fire on the officers. Now, the officers had been called there by the killer's mom. She called 911 because she said there was an altercation with her son. So they're going there to help the mom. The killer, LaShawn McNeil, 47-year-old career criminal, kicks open the door, shoots the cop in the head, shoots the other cop, 22-year-old Jason Rivera. He had died earlier from the same shooting. He had joined the NYPD 2 months earlier. You know why? He said he had a desire to improve ties between the police and the community. Now, the new mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, is a former police captain, and he wants to release the police video of the shootings. He said, I believe the video is something that people need to see what the police officers go through. No, ACAB, man. PolitiFact did a fact check on the Virginia new lieutenant governor. Now, the new lieutenant governor is a black woman, Winsome Earl Sears, and she is awesome. If you haven't heard her speech, her victory speech, and some of the things she said on the campaign trail, I mean, she's just awesome. And last week she said this, quote, we know last year the Loudoun County School Board spent about $300,000, that's real money, that's going to jail money, to bring CRT in some form or fashion to the school system, okay? PolitiFact came out, no, she did not. They did not. Let's stick it. We found that the school system admitted that they spent on CRT about $34,000 on equity training is what they called it. Wade Baird is the spokesperson and said the seminar was held to familiarize senior school officials with critical race theory. It's an academic construct that's been around for 45 years. Wait, so you're admitting that they taught CRT now? That you're admitting that? Huh. We asked Baird if the county had spent funds on critical race theory beyond the $34,000, said PolitiFact, and they said, no, that's about it. That's about it, or it is it? School spokesman said the county has not spent money on CRT beyond the $34,167, right? We rate Earl Sears' statement mostly false. Well, the Daily Caller looked into this, Chrissy Clark, and they said, no, between September 2018 and 2020, the school system made 7 payments to the Equity Collaborative LLC, $34,167, $68,333, and back in 2019, $242,000. So it was over $300,000, but it wasn't just last year. So could you say she was mostly true? But wait, there's more. Mark Thiessen wrote about this last November. Virginia's Loudoun County, ground zero in the debate for the role of parents in the kids' education, paid $314,000 for critical race theory coaching for its teachers from the Equity Collaborative. $314,000. All right, here's the stuff it said. Consulting firm turns critical race theory into practices for building more equitable learning environments. In the presentation, quote, Introduction to Critical Race Theory. That's what they called it. The Equity Collaborative instructs teachers that racism is, quote, an inherent part of American civilization, attacks ideas of colorblindness, the neutrality of law, incremental change, and equal opportunity for all, for maintaining whites' power and strongholds within society, and it questions the idea of meritocracy, which allows the empowered to feel good and to have a clear conscience. All these are quotes. It concludes with a breakout session for teachers to discuss, quote, how might you use CRT to identify and address systemic oppression in your school district or organization? That's $314,000. So maybe PolitiFact needs to do a little fact check on themselves. And finally, the Daily Mail has a story that I've been waiting for. My flying car is almost here. The futuristic flying air car. It can transform from a road vehicle with the wings tilted up into a plane in under 3 minutes with the wings down. It's been certified to fly now. It passed safety tests in Slovakia. I mean, nothing says safe like safety tests in Slovakia. Right. And it completed 200 takeoffs and landings. And it can fly at 8,000 feet, over 100 miles an hour. This sounds awesome to me. I'm ready for it. They say a new production line is expected in 12 months. No price details yet. I'm sure it'll be $200,000 to $300,000. So I'll have to wait till the price comes down. But I'm getting excited. I'll tell you, though, I don't think this is going to be the one that most people get. I think most people eventually, we're going to get the drone flying car. It's going to be like the little drone that you fly now. Maybe it'll be a 1 or a 2-seater, and you can use it to commute, and it's going to be an electric drone, and it maybe can go 50 miles. But if you only work, most people work 20 to 30 miles away, instead of a 30-minute to an hour commute, depending on your traffic, you zip up and down like the Jetsons, and you're there in 10 minutes. That's not bad. My name's Greg Knapp. This is the Greg Knapp Experience.